All right, we're going to continue here with the second part of lesson 112, where we're zooming in to find fractions between fractions. In this example, guys, we're going to take a look at finding some fractions that fall between 3/4 and 1 3/4. All right, so what are some fractions that could fall in between here? In this case, I have 1 3/4, so now I'm going over 1. Okay, in the last video we had, we were all finding fractions that were fractions between fractions, and we didn't get to fractions that were greater than 1. In this case, I could think of 1 3/4, okay, as 7/4. Okay, and if I do that, make it improper, this becomes very simple in this case. Because I have 3/4 here and 7/4 here, I can now zoom in and know that, well, what comes between 3/4 and 7/4? Well, I know 4/4, 5/4, 6/4. So there's 3 of them that come in between 3/4 and 7/4. So I'm going to try and space that out. This would be like 4/4, 5/4, 6/4. So sometimes it actually helps to make these things improper instead of having it in their simplest form, because then I can easily see this is 4/4. And yes, I know that's 1, but in this case we'll call it 4/4, 5/4, 6/4, and then that gets me to 7/4. And I've easily found 3 fractions that fall in between 3/4 and 1 3/4. Again, a little bit simpler when you have that common denominator, okay? But in this case, it's the thinking it's okay if you see 5/4 and 6/4. Now, you may want to label this, and I'll just do it down below. This could be labeled as 1. This would be 1 1/4. This would be 1 2/4. And we know the next tick should be 1 3/4, which it is. So a lot of times you will label these number lines in their simplest forms, but you can easily do it with improper fractions as well. Okay, and if I want to zoom in from here, so I'm going to go ahead and erase now that we have this. And again, if I want to zoom in between a couple of improper fractions like 5/4 and 6/4, remember we're going to draw this and we're going to zoom it out a little bit, make it a little bigger. And this is still 5/4. This is still 6/4. Okay, so can I find a couple of fractions in between 5/4 and 6/4? Let's say I just want to find a couple. Remember, our rule is if we multiply by 3/3, we would get 2 in between there. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and I'm going to take this times 3/3, and we're going to make those smaller pieces. We're going to get this thing into 12ths, and it becomes 15/12, which it makes sense. This is greater than 1. This should be greater than 1. These are equivalent. And I'll take this times 3/3 as well, and I'll get 18/12. So now I can see that I've zoomed in. I can find fractions between 15/12 and 18/12. I know I can get, so I'm going to make a couple of ticks in here and try and even them out. If this is 15/12, this would then be 16/12. This would be 17/12, because I know the next one would be 18/12. So there are my 2 fractions. A little tough to see there with the light, but this is 16/12 and that is 17/12. If I wanted to put them in the simplest form, you know, I could. That divide and make a V we talk about, but that would be 1 4/12, which we could get to 1 1/3. Okay, if we get it in the simplest form, and we could continue to do that. This would be 1 5/12, and some of you guys can do that mentally, and some of you guys divide. But there's a lot that goes into some of these problems. But again, you can keep them improper. It actually makes them a little easier sometimes, and if you have to get them back to simplest form, you can. So zooming in, you can always find fractions between fractions when you make smaller pieces with different common denominators. Those bigger denominators make smaller pieces, and you can find infinite answers.